What's good, guys? This is my first build guide, but I'm gonna go over this Penance brand Inquisitor. Currently I'm level 100, and it's basically a build made for swapping between Penance brand of Dissipation and Storm brand of Indecision. So one thing that's, Storm brand is really good at clear, right? As you saw in the start, and then Penance brand is really good for bossing. Its single target is just kind of ridiculous, like reaching billions of damage. um, after like 3 ticks, so it's kind of ridiculous. Um, this build is optimized so that I can literally just gem swap them. And that Stormbrand goes in, all of a sudden I have 400 million DPS on Stormbrand. Penance Brand goes in, all of a sudden I have 1.3 billion or something like that. Um, just to get it out of the way, this build is using legacy gear because I'm in SSF standard, but it's totally doable in League, and in fact, you'd have much more damage than me, because first of all, I'm an SSF, so my gear is a little bit limited, and second of all, you could just make better gear with, and also you have access to charms, which are massive. So, alright, I'm going to go over the gear then. So, on my we have Annihilating Light, which just makes you deal triple damage with elemental skills. This is a massive weapon. If you're wondering about the Crucible tree, mine's really just quality of life. I have 30% skill effect duration on it, which makes my Storm brand last longer. This doesn't actually do anything for Penance brand that I'm aware of, so don't worry about the Crucible tree. And then the other ones are just percent attributes, and this node's dead. So these 3 nodes don't do anything. I just have the skill effect duration, which makes my Storm brand last a little bit longer, which is nice for Sanctum. Um, and then in my helmet, I'm using a Legacy Heat Shiver, but new Heat Shiver's fine too. And then I'm using a Corruption with 0.5% of fire damage leached as life. And because we're using Heat Shiver, we're gaining cold damage as fire damage. And because we're using Call the Brotherhoods, we're gaining our lightning damage as cold damage. So we have a little bit of lightning damage, a little bit of cold damage, and then a little bit of fire damage once we actually freeze the enemy. So we have fire damage that's being leached as life, and since we're petrified blood, we have overleach, which is pretty cool. And then the enchant on this, don't worry about it. All you have to do is take one additional passive right here, and it fixes it. So that's just complete min-max. I don't have a second fire damage leeches life implicit heat shiver in SSF, so I can't showcase that. Then for Ring, as I said, we're using Call of the Brotherhoods. This is a very good one. I think best in slot would be percent all res and then cast speed, but lightning damage to spells and attacks is also really good because flat damage for Stormband and Penance Brand are massive. And then I'm duplicating it with the Calendar's Touch, but if you're on more of a budget, you could just do the regular implicit because it gives res, and yeah. One problem you're gonna have is getting res capped on this build because we're using Annihilating Light. So as you can see, we're using Mage Blood to fix that, but still it's difficult with the Annihilating Light. So try to get as much resistance as you can. Next, I'm using Dial's Malefaction. This is a main area where you could get a lot more damage than me. If you were to get a double implicit one with +2 duration, +2 AoE, +1 even, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, AoE and duration. If you were to get +4, that'd be straight up like not quite 40% more damage because we're already reached level 31 in the gem. But it would be like 20% more. So you gain a ton of damage through that. For our amulet, I'm using a pretty good one. I'm using it's +2 for all skill gems, lightning skill gems, and then veiled life, along with fractured crit multi, T1 cast speed, and then T1 brand attachment range. This is probably the best crafted item I have on this build, not including the boots, but the boots are completely unnecessary. And then I'm anointing Breath of Rhyme for reasons I'll explain later. Oh, I just swapped by accident. Then we're using Mage Blood. I'm using a Legacy enchant, but honestly, you're way res or crit overcapped in this build, so you don't even need it. Again, I don't have another Mage Blood to use that doesn't have an implicit, so I can't showcase that. I apologize, but that's the case. And then I'm using Influenced Gloves, actually. A lot of people, I think, underestimate these gloves for spellcasters. They're very glass cannony, but they're very strong. So what's going on here is I have elevated unnerve and elevated culling, and that gives me guaranteed cull, guaranteed unnerve, which is really nice. And then I can multi-mod these and just have max life and then increase damage while leeching. And the leech mod is actually huge because that's always up when I'm like attacking because I have overleech, like I said. And then the boots. The boots I mentioned, they're completely unnecessary, but I have double awakened or double elevated, whatever. These are old. Another pair you could use. I think I crafted them. Yeah, they're right here. I made these before. You just have, life and then a little bit of regen, and then avoid being chilled is nice. Um, Action speed's also good just for moving around a little bit better, but really don't just make, life boots and then get your resist on these and make sure you have movement speed because movement speed's really nice. As for the Mage Blood, I'm using a Legacy at Series Promise. Don't use a Legacy. Well, you can't use a Legacy one, but this is unnecessary. It's just, I don't even need it to one-shot bosses, so just, it's not necessary. You could use Oriath's End, you could use a new Series Promise, you could use Bottled Faith, you could use anything like that. I'm using a Quicksilver Flask with a Horsefly, so this is giving me cast speed. Cast speed scales your Penance brand massively in that every tick it's increasing its damage. So, as you saw in the Ubermaven, I killed my Ubermaven in like 3 ticks. So, the faster your cast speed is, the faster those ticks are, so she won't get a spell off or anything, right? And then same thing with Storm brand. It scales it. You see increases and reductions to cast speed also apply the skill's activation frequency, so that makes cast speed one of our best modifiers. And then I have a perfect Bismuth Flask of the Rainbow. I'm sure this is pretty expensive in League, but it's extremely necessary. As you can see, I'm hardly capped out on resistances. And then I have a perfect Silver Flask of Incision. This is giving me a lot of crit chance and a lot of cast speed through the Onslaught implicit, also movement speed, which is nice. And then I have a Sulfur Flask here. This one you kind of can exchange for anything you want. You could do Jade if you want a little bit more survivability. You could do Sulfur here if you want maximum damage, but it's not necessary. You could do Amethyst for other survivability. Like I used an Amethyst during the Uber Sirius fight, so I didn't die to the degen storms by just, walking next to them and then getting just instantly deleted. One thing I do want to talk about real quick is that Legacy Heat Shiver is better than this helmet for me, which is a like a, an 8-link helmet or whatever. But new Heat Shiver I believe is worse than this helmet. So if you can make one of these helmets, they're very expensive, but also don't worry about the impulses, they do nothing. It's kind of a brick, but if you can make one of these helmets in League and then use it, especially if you get, +2 AoE with Eisling and then crafted life on them, then try to use these, and then you could use like a Utula's Hunger or something for your body armor. Or even Dial's still and use like or your auras in here, put a level 6 in Enlighten and stuff, and then you probably fit another aura. That'd be cool. Okay, I'll go over the passive tree. So this build really I made for to be a Sanctum runner, right? So it's purely a Sanctum runner, but it can do, all the content effectively. It's just very squishy, but it's not too squishy. I could make it, do more damage, but even be less survivable if I wanted to by dropping, for example, Glorious Vanity here. So we start out at Inquisitor, and we path up to Runebinder. Runebinder's huge for Stormbrand. I'm not really sure how it works with Penance Brand. They've been like bug fixing stuff, but it's a overall DPS increase, so just take this. You can basically, it's double damage for Stormbrand, so it's just by default better. And we path down to life here. We take the brand mastery for cast 2 additional brands. For Sanctum, this is big. In the like trap rooms, I can take 7 brands down, I believe it is. Let me try. Yes, no, that's 6 brands. So I have 6 maximum brands, And that's huge because it'll kill stuff behind me as I'm doing circles or whatever it is. So more brands, more better. We have Corrupted Soul through Glorious Vanity, which is big. And that's basically just giving me a little bit more of a life pool. And then the only one I have on this is Max Aura Effect. So that's boosting up all the auras we have, which is nice. Another thing you could go for here is Cold Leech or Fire Leech. And that'd be replacing the implicit on this. And you could go for a different implicit. For example, you could go for +2 aura, or yeah, that's pretty much it. +2 aura, +2 AoE, something like that to boost up your auras, like Hatred. And then we're taking the other brand cluster here for huge crit multi and brand attachment range. Brand attachment range is another modifier that's massive. Ideally, I want to recraft my gloves eventually to get brand attachment range on them, so for Sanctum, which would be really nice. But that'd be expensive, and I don't have that material right now. So I'm using the mastery here for brand attachment range. A lot of this is self-explanatory. We're taking the crit nodes, more crit nodes. One thing, the 25 to crit multi against unique enemies is massive. I don't have it right now because I just am extremely point starved. I'm sure I could find a way, but right now it's just not worth it. I have so much damage, I don't need it. Taking life nodes and then 15% max life since there's no life modifiers on equipped body armor. I can do that since there's no life here, so this is a huge point. Sovereignty and then aura effects. We're taking more brand nodes. These are the three that if you were going to drop any, say you're lower level, you would drop these 5 points. They give you a little bit of brand duration, which is nice for Storm brand, but they're not necessary. As for the cluster, I'm using a, what is this? Prismatic Heart Sadist Jewel. So I'm getting 10 all-res, and then Sadist, which is huge. It's giving me a lot. It's giving me 60% elemental damage because I have damage of all 3 elements, like I explained earlier. And then we're using triple Grand Design plus Remarkable Jewels. So what these do is, Remarkable is a huge node. It gives cast speed with brand skills, which is a great node for brands. And then spells which create brands have 35% chance to create an additional brand. Now, we take 3 of these, right? Remarkable, and then one more over here, Remarkable. So when I cast a brand, I immediately get 2, as you can see, which is really nice for bossing, for Sanctum even, because you're just spamming them around, massive cast speed. It's really nice. And then I'm using Watcher's Eye with crit chance Hatred. That's the only mod on this. If you were in League, you could improve this, getting crit chance Hatred, crit chance Wrath, anything like that. Zealotry, crit chance, just anything really. Crit multi, even precision. I'm an SSF. I'm limited on the Watcher's Eye, unfortunately. And then the chance to avoid being stunned is just negligent. You don't need it because we're not getting hit anyway. Over here we have a jewel. This is Prismatic Heart Snowstorm. Snowstorm's also a really good node because you're gaining lightning damage as extra cold damage, which obviously that's good because we're using lightning skills in terms of Storm brand and Penance brand, which deal lightning damage. We're converting it to cold damage, and then we're scaling it through hatred and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a good node. It's basically 8% more damage, but better than that because the cold damage is additionally scaled. Okay, now we're on the right side of the tree, so I'm taking Fizz converted to lightning damage over here. That's a big node. For Penance brand, if you're playing pure Storm brand, you just don't take this. But it's a complete dead node for Storm brand, but it's massive for Penance brand. And unfortunately, I only have 90% Fizz converted to lightning. So if you see on Penance brand, if I hover over it, I actually have physical damage still on the gem, which is, if I could convert 10% more of that to lightning, it'd be huge, but there's really not many sources of that. If you could get a Watcher's Eye, that'd also be good, crit chance with hatred along with Wrath convert to lightning, or even, convert to cold. I think that'd be really expensive though. And then influence, that's self-explanatory, more life, whatever. And then I'm actually specing the crit mastery for crit chance against enemies on full life. So I noticed that in Sanctum especially, on your first hit, I'm not actually crit capped, because we're taking this node, which is crit chance against shocked enemies, and obviously when I initially attack something, if I haven't hit them yet, they're not going to be shocked, so I don't have this crit chance. So right now I'm taking this crit chance against enemies on full life just to ensure that I'm freezing them, or basically, I'm critting them, so therefore I freeze them for Sanctum, because the goal of this character is to get an original sin, which is why it's called, sin. So yeah, and then we're taking Pain Attunement. You can see here I'm on low life through auras and Petrified Blood, and then cast speed, crit multi, elemental damage, and more life. So other jewels, I'm running Grand Spectrum Power Charge, Grand Spectrum Elemental Damage, let's see, and then a Crimson Jewel here, with just life and crit multi, and then finally a minimum frenzy. This one is really expensive in League. If you don't want to run this, an alternative is to run. Let's see, do I have them? Yeah, you could run Forbidden Flames for Conviction of Power. You could also run the Hierophant ones for Arcane Surge, which gives you 20% more damage, which is pretty big. Yeah, I think that's it for this. So, I was going to talk about the annoyance. So, Breath of Rhyme, I'm not really sure I need this because Duration of Cold Ailments, it's really for your heat shiver. And what this is doing is it's basically ensuring that I have freeze on bosses at 100% uptime. And it's not really, since I'm hitting so fast, I don't really know what it is, 0.14 seconds or something. Yeah, at the bottom, 0.14 seconds. Since I hit every, 0.14 seconds, the freeze is going to be on. So this node, it could be replaced. If you're going to pick up another node, you would take Stormweaver. This is like 10% more damage or something stupid. So you could take this. If you were going to go, even more damage, less survivability, you could take these 5 nodes, and just drop life. And definitely drop melding. Something to note on this is that Righteous Fire. Righteous Fire is actually pretty difficult to sustain with the changes because we're taking more damage for more life, right? So something I noticed was as I spec'd into more life, I'm all of a sudden not sustaining Righteous Fire as well. So the more life you have, the more regen you need to have, which is kind of unfortunate. But like before, I wasn't taking melding, and I was sustaining my life instantly, and it was really really nice. But right now, I don't have all that much over sustain, so the overleech comes in pretty clutch for that. So finally, I'll go over gems, which is kind of the last part. Oh, bandits, just kill them all and whatever. And then I'm using 100% chance to avoid being frozen. This build is not elemental ailment immune. I just don't think it's necessary, to be honest. Okay, gems. So we're running in the weapon. I I can't figure out what to put in this socket, but we're running enhance. Yeah, enhance punishment. You saw me casting punishment on the ground because we use cursed ground. The tech here is that since we kill things so fast, I don't have time to cast Assassin's Mark. So I cast Punishment on the ground, and then as soon as the monster spawns in, whether it's Maven or Lycia or any of those, then I immediately am casting on her and she's being affected by Punishment. And since we're taking, I actually didn't talk about the Ascendancy. Since we're taking critical strikes, ignore enemy monster resistances, we have no reason to use Frostbite, for example. So punishments are best in slot aura unless you want to use, something like Enfeeble or, something tankier. Temporal Chains even would be cool. We're using Curse Ground. Righteous Fire is self-explanatory. We just sustain it since we're an Inquisitor with Pious Path. It's huge, like, what is it? 41% more spell damage. It's pretty nice. And then I'm using Brand Recall. The thing about Brand Recall is it's huge for Sanctum. You can cast brands. So for example, I'm using Stormbrand here, right? And all of a sudden I'm dashing in another room and I immediately like bring them to me. So casting, 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 flash, and then they're here. And these things have like a 8 meter radius. So they're attaching from like here all the way to over there. I'll show you real quick in Bullet Aqueduct. So let's see. Okay, there's monsters. If I like cast a brand here, see how long it takes for it to like flash on, right? So it's pretty far, but say I was to do that over here and then brand recall them. See, they immediately go. Just kill this stuff close to me. So if I were to, they're all the way over there, brand recall, and like that's across the screen, right? In Sanctum, that's basically the entire screen if you're in a trap room or something. So they will immediately dash over. Okay, other skills. In the helmet, we're running Enlighten 4, Petrified Blood, Hatred, and Zealotry. For our main skill links, I'm running Inspiration. I'm working on trying to take this out because I'm very close to not needing it anymore. As you can see, I'm running a little bit of unreserved mana, so I can actually cast Wrath. See, Wrath costs 124 mana. I have 164 unreserved. The thing about this is if I take out Inspiration and then put in another gem, I have my Stormbrand costs something like 60 mana, and then it's a little awkward to spam. See, you can see I'm already being limited. So we're running Inspiration, Awaken Empower, well, Empower. This is just an Empower 4, because I bricked it, but it's an Empower 4. Concentrated Effects, Awakened added lightning damage. This is +1 gem. It's basically a massive base damage. Swift Brand, and then Stormbrand or Penance Brand, right? So Penance Brand is actually, I believe, what is it? Yeah, Penance Brand is better in a red socket because if you look at the quality, it's only 10% more damage per 20 quality, whereas Stormbrand is actually better in a green socket. So the best way to swap these is to, yeah, move the inspiration around because we don't really need anything on inspiration. So if we keep Stormbrand in a green socket, you can see that it's actually 53% more damage from being in the green socket, or, you know, 33% more damage because it's gaining 30 quality, versus Penance Brand would only gain, like, what is it, 15% more damage or something? Yeah, so it's, you can see at the bottom the quality line deals 26% more damage, whereas Stormbrand deals 53% more damage. So Stormbrand is optimal in a green socket, Penance Brand is optimal in a red socket. And the only place I really messed that up. The only place I really swap these out is, since I only use this character for Sanctum, really, I'm running Stormbrand 99% of the time, and then I swap in Penance Brand for the floor 3 and floor 4 bosses, because I can kill them fine with Stormbrand. I have 400 million DPS on Stormbrand, but I just feel more comfortable with Penance Brand if I have modifiers that give them, you know, more life. I deal less damage, all these types of things. Penance Brand just instantly kills them, so that solves that. And again, you don't have to do this optimal swap every time. It's annoying, so I usually just gem swap here, and I'm losing about, you know, 10% damage, whatever it is, but it's not a big deal because you have way overkill on damage. Okay, so in the boots, I have Vitality, 21. Dread Banner. Dread Banner is for the less accuracy rating on enemies. I'm not really sure how this is working in Sanctum. I'm hoping it's helping in terms of taking less damage for no hits. But this is kind of a question mark. It's usable, you could skip it, whatever. But it's another gem that's reserved on life. And then I'm using Precision, level 15. This is for, it's for Dex, I believe, is why I have it low level. Yeah, 98 Dex. Whereas if I weapon swap, I'm being limited by 100 Dex. Whereas with this one I have 110 because I have the 10% increase node. That's awkward, but it works. And then Arrogance, 21. This should be 2120, but it's fine. You could use 2020, you could use 1, For making this build cheaper, you don't really need the quality on anything except for Stormbrand and Penance Brand. And then over here, I am running a Divine Blessing Wrath setup. So I'm running Wrath, level 21. Flame Dash is in here. Inspiration's in here for the reduced mana cost. Level 20. And you need the 20 quality on this one too, actually. And then Divine Blessing. Divine Blessing, you can go to like level 1 if you want, because the basically it scales mana per level, but it gives you more aura effect. So if this was like a level 1, I think my Wrath goes down from 124 mana to like 90 mana cost. So if you have very little mana to spare, then you could decrease the Divine Blessing level. Finally, on my weapon swap for Sanctum, I have a 6-link Searing Bond. If you're not running Sanctum, don't worry about this. This character is for no-hit runs, so I have this, right? This is for Fireball rooms only. And the gems in this are kind of dumb, but I'm running Inspiration for mana cost reasons. And Power 4, this is for survivability of them. It's not necessary, they survive fine, they're only getting hit by the fireballs. I'm running multiple totems, faster casting, and then Enhance. Enhance is huge because it gives me maximum number of summoned totems. So you can imagine if I'm running through a room, right, and there's fireballs coming at me, I have a bunch of totems I can body block with, basically. So yeah, that's the build. Let me know if you have any questions. In terms of possible upgrades you could make in League, definitely look at running a 8-link helmet instead of Heat Shiver. And then you could get implicits on Dialas, they're huge. You could also run Replica Dragon Fangs. I don't have one for Penance Brand. I believe this is better because it's crafted so well, but yeah, you could change the anoint on this to be, what was it, Stormweaver? Other things, you can get this build, Curse Immune through implicits on jewels and stuff. You can get, another thing, on the amulet. If you run, I think it's a focused amulet, they're very expensive. I haven't been able to get one in SSF yet, even though I've run something like 1600 wings. But yeah, if you can get a focused amulet, you can get +2 all skill gems on it, along with crit multi, along with 40% brand attachment range. I believe that would beat this amulet basically through the brand attachment range alone. It's just such a huge mod that it's worth it, basically. Yeah, so brand attachment range on this, you can double. You can also get brand attachment range on gloves. You can see this craft is on gloves and amulets. So yeah, the enchants, like I said, don't worry about them. Cast speed, if I've killed recently, it's for Sanctum, it feels nice, but like in League, obviously this isn't obtainable anymore, so don't worry about it. Commandment of Blades, it does nothing. And then the Hatred Reservation Efficiency, like I said, just take another RMR node and worst case drop these 5 nodes, or drop you can cast 2 additional brands, or just drop some life. So yeah, that's the build. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, whatever, all that stuff. I don't know, I don't do YouTube that much, so hope you enjoyed. See ya.